I'm sure you know the principles of building a house. You have to start with clearing the ground and going upward. The same principles apply to raising your vibration. And wherever you are, you can use these principles. So how do you raise higher? How do you increase your vibrational frequency? Well, like I hinted, from the ground up. First, you have to focus on the first principles that will always apply to some of us. You have to start with clearing the ground. What do I mean by this? It's actually segmented into 3 ways because you have to go from outward to inward. So you clear the ground of your life by doing things that are sweeping away things that are holding you down. This is the most important principle because we naturally evolve. Evolution is constantly happening. And without our obsessions, without our addictions, without our resistance, we would be raising much higher. But we create those habits and ways of being that keep us stuck doing some of the detrimental things that we are used to doing and keep choosing them by the same way over and over and over. So clearing or sweeping the ground happens when you look, for example, on the outside, on your external circumstances. What do you think can be still holding you back from raising your vibration? The simple thing you can do is to look at your phone. You can look at what kind of notifications have you set up to receive. Are you reading news? Well, if you're reading news, then you are constantly putting yourself in the circumstances that someone else from the outside will manipulate your vibration. They will constantly put in front of you feeds, whether they're true or untrue, whether they're relevant or irrelevant. Most of them are actually completely irrelevant for you to read, to watch. And therefore, that impacts on how you're vibrating, how you're feeling in simple terms. You don't have to take my word. I encourage you to run an experiment. I want you to try and do a body scan before you go onto your feed, before you go onto the news, and see how you feel. And watch whatever you're watching, whatever headlines, whatever fear-mongering reports you are looking at for 10-15 minutes, and then scan your body again. I can guarantee you, you will feel way, 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 way lower after you have read all this information. Whatever is your dominant way of feeling, this is your dominant vibration. And if you want to change your vibration, you have to start changing the ways you're doing, you're being in the world. So changing whatever you're reading, whatever you're watching is a great way. I want to encourage you also to look at maybe your Instagram or maybe look at your whatever social media you're following and see what things are you consuming. We have to digest every single thing. People don't often think about digesting information, digesting news, digesting stimuli, digesting interactions. But this is what we have to do energetically all the time. That's why maybe if you doom scroll your phone for an hour or two and you get this random set of people that you follow, those channels or accounts that you follow, and they constantly feed you with this different information. Maybe you become scattered, maybe you become self-doubting, maybe all kinds of ideas come to your mind, then you might want to actually look and do some clearing there as well. You might do some sweeping. I remember I was recommending to so many clients of mine to do some general sweep of their accounts and the people that they were following on their Instagram and Facebook, because once they were able to do it, a lot of clarity has always come to their life. All of a sudden, they free themselves from this information that habitually they were consuming. And this has freed up a lot of time, energy, and a lot of vibration that has been holding back by this, just knee-jerk reaction of just switching on your phone, and you consume what is in your feed. Another thing you can clear up from outside in is things like your diet. And like I said, it's not going to be a very prescriptive video. It is a video based on principles. So it's up to you. How do you decide to do it? Everyone is different. Before recording this video, I just very quickly looked at what other articles recommend in terms of increasing your vibration, and they would suggest, drink green juice, or do some fasting, or do this kind of exercise, or do this. And I really disagree with that, because wherever you are, this is where you start. And your body will often give you the best guidance where you are. You can also use support of a professional practitioner such as Ayurvedic practitioner, or maybe Chinese medicine, or a holistic nutritionist or something like that, and they will help you decide what's good for you. Also, what I want to encourage is that you become more sensitive, you become more in tune with your body, so it helps you intuitively decide what you need, and so that you can later validate your hunches. Sometimes we need to increase our temperature of body. Sometimes we need to do some clearing, and you might feel it. Sometimes you might need to do different sorts of exercises that help you clear your body. And knowing that you need to change things now and again is a great place, because you're not needing to subscribe to any trends, to any dogmas, to any fad diets, to anything that others tell you how you should be. You are the master of your life, and no one else have the right to tell you exactly the actions you need to take. That's why all my videos are all about principles. I include examples of how you can go about doing things, and maybe some universal ways of doing things. But it is always up to you to decide what is good for you. And the most important way of clearing yourself, to clear the ground up, is to clear your emotions. Is to clear all the hidden underground emotions, like, we're preparing the ground, so to speak. So you have to uncover what you've been repressing. And usually people in this place will ask me, hey Gosia, how do you expect me to raise my vibration when I'm digging deep in my negative emotions and my pain? How do you expect me to feel better? And I will tell you, this is exactly what you need to do, so that you allow yourself to unchain this junk, unchain this ballast, unchain this weight, so that you can elevate, you can go with that evolution upwards. If you've watched my channel, by this point you might know that in healing body, the most important thing is to deal with your painful emotions. And to heal your body means increase your vibration. It's literally an equivalent of raising your vibration so much that your physical body heals. And this is how I healed a really long-standing chronic disease, by unchaining these painful emotions from my life, by dealing with them, by expressing them in a healthy way. And this is all happening next to being more positive, being spiritual, and cultivating the obvious ways of raising your vibration. I want to encourage you so that you're not overtly spiritual, you're not overtly positive, because when you are that way, when you're forcing positivity down your throat, whenever you are full of sadness, whenever you're full of anger, whenever you're frustrated, you're only going to repress what is true, what is already happening. You can't change your emotions without accepting, validating, and clearing them out. Otherwise, you're just digging them deeper. And it's really hard to raise any beautiful house, to raise your vibration when something is constantly pulling you down. I have a great story for you to share that happened to me just last week. And this is about how I resisted to deal with my sadness. This finger that you're looking at got swollen overnight, and it got swollen already for the second time. It was like a sausage basically, and it was so painful. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, what have I done? Because obviously I know I contribute to whatever happens with my body. I know exactly how these things happen, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've been really positive, I've been putting out all my best work, I've been enjoying myself, and I was like, okay, hold on. I should have known better. What happened? I just remembered a dream that corresponded with a year anniversary of my very, very painful breakup of a long relationship. And the dream really asked of me to be sad. It really asked of me to grieve some more. And right now, I'm just being really sad when I'm speaking about this, because I had all these emotions and I was just willfully forcing being positive and functional. And because my body, like your body, is so amazing, they are so sensitive to all these things, how we navigate our emotional world. So what happened, actually this finger is corresponding with lung and large intestine channels in Chinese medicine, and these are linked to the emotion of sadness and grief, just so you know. So very quickly I did a quick check in my head, I linked all the dots, and I was like, oh God, yes, I was just being too positive. And many people would be like, can you be too positive? Can you actually be too positive? Yes, you can. You can drive yourself sick, physically sick. You can drive yourself mentally sick, and you can drive yourself completely miserable by trying to be too positive. This story again reminded me how I should be thankful to my body and the sensitivity that I've developed in reading and listening to all the signals and allowing myself to validate whatever happens without forcing my will onto what's happening, whatever needs to flow, whatever needs to clear itself out. We are very good at repression, and I just really wanted to share that really good anecdote. And when I discovered this, when I realized this is what was happening, I just allowed myself to grieve for a couple of days. I was completely falling apart. I let myself cry, I let myself journal. Guess what happened? And the finger came down. It became completely normal, no pain, nothing. I just have a bit of like wrinkly skin from too much swelling to remind me that I should listen to my freaking amazing emotions and honor myself, because you cannot raise your vibration higher without clearing your vibrations. So now again, I'm energetic, again, I'm happy, again, I'm flowing, but I had to make the pause for the clearing. Because the crying, for example, any sort of expression, if you journal about your anger, it's cleansing, it's allowing energy to move, it's allowing the flow to run through you, to make space for all the things that you want to create and build. Another thing to add in the clearing principle, I want to encourage you to do any sort of shadow work, inner work, to excavate the traits, excavate the powers, excavate the repressed aspects of your personality, excavate the needs, the desires that you've been so ashamed of, so that you had to put the lid on them so that you didn't have to be confronted by that. I really want to encourage that you do that, because all those things, they will help you build the home. They will help you build your life of higher vibration, because you can only raise your vibration through compassion. You become bigger, you vibrate higher when you hold any of your lower traits, what you consider lower. Then you can hold them in your body and you can embrace them, you can embody them, and you can choose whatever you decide to embody or not, whatever you just choose to accept. And this leads me to the second principle: to validate whatever is yours, to accept your design. What do I mean by this principle? Well, we are always so looking out to what other people tell us to do, what is good for us, what are honorable desires, what are worthy traits, what are good people's characteristics, whatever. There is no such thing. All traits, all feelings, all needs, all desires need to be honored as your design. You need to accept and acknowledge, like I started saying in the first principle, by holding yourself in compassion, whatever is yours, without repressing, you discover the sort of almost like divine parental figure inside of you that inevitably makes you vibrate higher as you hold this child, this inner child of you that maybe was ashamed, maybe was feeling guilty, unworthy, unlovable. When you hold yourself with reverence as that wiser parent of yours, as that wiser higher self. I call it core self because we always have it inside of us. It's really just the core of us. So how do you validate yourself? Is by acknowledging and accepting your thoughts, your feelings, your needs and your desires as whatever they are, without shaming them, without trying to make them bad, without judging yourself. I'm not saying you are right always. I'm saying this is the point to build upon. Unless you accept all these things, you cannot raise higher. This is like a blockage. This is like a bondage we have. When we judge ourselves, when we invalidate, when we disapprove of ourselves, we are instantly holding ourselves to these things. We are becoming slaves to other people tell us what to do with these things. We cannot raise our vibrations unless we validate ourselves, because we will always be seeking approval from elsewhere if we don't approve of ourselves. This is how it goes. Your design is where you start, and when you learn yourself, when you start seeing the good aspects of what you have, no matter how much you shamed it, no matter how much other people shamed it, you look at those disowned parts and you look at them and you think to yourself, okay, how can I look at this to see the goodness in it? How can I see the perfection of it? How does it make me a better person? How feeling anger, how having this desire, what kind of outlet is it really seeking? By becoming curious, you start becoming more accepting, and again you raise your vibrations. These first two principles, by clearing and validating or honoring yourself, in no particular order, you don't have to do one after another. You have to do them all the time, because we will have different things that crop up during lifetime, and we want to tend to them all the time. Like I said, we don't want to allow things to become repressed. We don't want to allow things to be stifled by our disapproval of certain things, because you have a certain idea of how you should be. Maybe you should be at this stage, at this point of your life, and maybe you should be like that, and you don't allow yourself to unfold at the same time. There are two things. There are your natural tendencies, there are your coping behaviors that you developed in a period of trying to survive as a child, and there is your divine completion that you're seeking, your fulfillment that you're following by listening to your heart. When you allow yourself, when you stop judging yourself, when you stop invalidating yourself, when you allow yourself to listen to your intuition, you start following your heart. You start becoming more courageous in listening to those nudges, because you started validating those nudges as valid sources of information. You have to know that you've got this fountain, this spring of knowing, constantly trying to give you information. Self-validation is like putting your own stamp of approval of whatever you decide, whatever you choose, whatever you want, and whatever is already. And in the metaphor of building a house, you can call it a design. You can call it, you just validate, you just put a stamp of approval on your design so that you can build whatever you desire, because you have affirmed, you have approved of your desire. You have not repressed your desires because you're ashamed, because someone else says these are unworthy desires, these are stupid, maybe you're, just a dreamer, maybe you shouldn't believe that thing. But you're approving of this for yourself, and now you can build. And the last principle is the actual creating, is the actual building of the house. I don't want you to confuse this with being more important than the other two principles. It's not more important. This is what most people focus on, but without the other two principles, this one on its own doesn't hold. Just going back to the metaphor, just want to really illustrate this. Imagine you're building this house on a junkyard. Imagine building a house, trying to raise a house when you haven't approved of your design, when you are trying to build a house on this mess that you haven't cleared out. How do you expect this to happen? You're not going to raise the house too high up before it starts collapsing, right? And you have to start over. This is the same, and that's why I wanted to create some sort of principles and idea behind raising the vibration, so that you can understand what needs to happen before you actually start building. So how are you building? How are you creating this house from where you are? All this has to do with choices you make. You choose, you change your choices by deciding your thoughts, you choose your beliefs, you choose your emotions, and you choose your actions, right? How you do this? You create all your life. You create new vibrational state by becoming a different you. You're building a new home that you're going to live in. And I'm not exaggerating or being poetic right now. It is literal, because by making new choices, what happens, you observe what lower emotions you are feeling, what negative emotions you are feeling. and you observe, maybe I'm feeling fearful when I think about my passion that I would want to bring into life, that I would want to make it my income. Perhaps I would want to transform it into a business, and you always have this fearful and doubtful emotions. You have uncovered this. You need to validate where you are. You have to hold yourself with compassion. This is where you are, this is what you're experiencing, and then you have this negative emotion because you are away, you are stranded from your core self. You are misaligned. All the negative emotions I explained in my other videos are a sign of a misalignment from your fulfillment, from your bliss, from the highest vibration, from being aligned with your highest self. So now that you discover what kind of negative emotions you have, you get to change. You get to change how you decide to think about this. You get to change how you decide to believe about yourself. You get to change what kind of actions you will take. You get to choose what will you do, who you will engage with, the groups that you associate with, the work that you go to, the hobby maybe that you pursue, and make it into something more. The people, the circumstances, the places that you go to, the programs that you watch, the music that you listen, all these things you get to choose and build into new ones. I kid you not, you literally change your circumstances into better ones. You literally start creating a way better world for yourself as you vibrate higher. And you do this by following your heart over and over and over, by validating what's in your heart, by validating what's aligned for you, by validating and approving of your desires, what makes you feel better. And that will change your whole world, even external world that you see. And I can share with you, this is what I've done. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't taking all the uncompromised choices from my heart. I was constantly choosing what will make me feel better. I had to let go of the things and circumstances that didn't align with how I wanted to function, that didn't contribute to my expansion, that didn't contribute to my reaching for higher potentials. I had to let go of relationships. I had to let go of jobs. I had to let go of amazing business that was flourishing, that was very profiting, that was bringing me amazing testimonials and changing people's lives. And I still let it go because I felt there is something better. And even the funny thing is, when you start vibrating really high, even some amazing affirmations that you've been listening to might start feeling a bit off because you've already outgrown them. You start perceiving with your body the parts that are not aligned with your highest core self, what it tells, the truth of your highest self. For example, I listened lately, it was a meditation I overheard some client shared with me, and I felt really kind of this cringy feeling where when I listened to one phrase that said something, I'm trying to, and it was like aspirational kind of thing, and I felt like, oh, you know, I felt trying is too low. It doesn't feel true. It doesn't feel, speaking about, I'm trying to feel less unworthy. And I was like, oh, this doesn't feel right. This affirmation is completely misaligned because I've outgrown this stage. It may be okay when you're lower to listen to, but once you reach certain stage and you've outgrown this, you will not tolerate things. And that's why developing and expanding the sensitivity of your body as the tool that guides you. It will always tell you what's true. Some people may use, I heard they use muscle testing, they use dowsing for this purpose. I use my body, and you can use your body as well. Any discomfort, when you become present, you can feel your way into building a better choice, into what feels better. What is the next thing that's going to make me feel better? And you know, I even have a post-it note above my TV screen. I very rarely watch TV, but the post-it note says, "Is there anything better than this?" Because I've become so aware of, you know, when you get swept by an activity and then you just finish it. So many people start watching a film or a movie or a program and then just continue watching it, you know, without thinking if they still like it. Maybe they were curious or something when they started watching, but then they don't check in if they are still choosing it. And then an hour goes by and 2 hours maybe go by, and they keep watching something that is actually not enjoyable. And I am so in tune with myself, and I also have sometimes those external reminders. Luckily, I don't have to use them so much because I'm just so aware, and I really wish this for you as well. We want to become so aware that we constantly check in for the feedback from our body to tell us, am I still enjoying this? Do I want to watch in for another hour or 2 hours this program? Or do I want to keep watching even another 15 minutes when I could be doing something more enjoyable, even having a nap, even laying down and doing nothing, you know, which could be much more nourishing than watching a program that maybe started off interestingly, but now it's kind of just weird and it's not very fun at all, right? So I encourage you to be choosing over and over and over. This is how you build your vibration up. You build the life that you're seeing. This is what matches our vibration when we act on them. So I've given you way more than raising your vibration today, because you actually start producing choices that produce your reality. By acting from your heart, by choosing on what's better for me, what is my bliss, how do I follow my heart so it feels better, what is higher alignment right now, all the time, you build this new reality. And it might have taken years, but you are seeing your creations, and most of the time it's not only you, it's what starts happening as you choose yourself. Is if you keep choosing yourself, you see that more of the matching opportunities arrive in your life. You meet people who really match what you're looking for. You match opportunities and ideas and inspirations. You start seeing these things that give you ideas on, this feels good. Now I've been wanting to do this and I'm seeing this person doing that. It's really inspiring. Now I know how to do it, right? And maybe you even meet someone that will help you. And these are all the things that when you've decided what you wanted and you started acting based on your heart, you will start these opportunities crop up more and more often. So you are really co-creating. You are creating this house, you building it, but universe is really coming to support you over and over. I've seen this happen, and my life is the best example of this. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy right from the get-go. You have to give yourself a little bit of time when you experiment with these things. Start with making the correct choices. Start with aligning yourself with thoughts and emotions. Experiment and change into those risky decisions and actions that change your life a little bit farther down the line if you don't feel comfortable doing that just yet. But over time, you will see there is no real risk involved when you are choosing yourself. These are deeds of self-love. They build so much self-worth, love for yourself, because you keep prioritizing and you've been validating yourself, your hunches, your emotions, your desires. You will vibrate so much higher through your inner power that you've created, that you will quickly find yourself that, you know, by doing that, you have left behind all the things that have been holding you back, all the things that were chaining you, such as old habits and old, you know, ways of doing things, old relationships, old paradigms. Stop feeding and fueling them and start feeding and fuel the new path. And this is when you start seeing how you start vibrating higher and seeing the resonance of this in your life. And just like with building a house, there's always some work to do, right? There's always some clearing to do. Even if you already have the basement, even if you already raised the house, it's not finished ever. There's always something to do, some maintenance. So don't think about this as kind of linear journey, that you have to have everything cleared out, that you have to be perfectly healed, that you no longer have any traumas before you start being positive and thinking positive thoughts. You think about it as a constant kind of weaving kind of process of using of these three principles over and over, into constantly becoming more of who you want to be, becoming more of the hospitable environment for those higher vibrations, always building yourself up. And I just want to remind you that wherever you are, this is the perfect place to be. You have arrived at this place for a reason. You are a perfect combination of lessons, experiences, opportunities, and potentials that will all equip you to vibrate higher and live the best life that you can. So wherever you are, don't get discouraged. You can always go higher, but you don't beat yourself up for being where you are. You've got three principles to use, so use them as you can. And I'm curious, which principle out of the three you think is the one that you might need to focus on most at this point? Have you been too positive maybe, and you think maybe I have to spend a little bit time on, you know, just exploring some of the darker sides that I've been repressing? Maybe I've been still ashamed and trying to pretend in front of myself that these parts don't exist. Or maybe I've been constantly invalidating myself, and this is something I need to practice, right? And maybe I have been looking out for external approval, pleasing others, being perfectionistic or performing all the time, trying to get approval and appreciation from the outside. So maybe I have to, you know, just spend a little bit time on doing this. Or maybe I actually have to start focusing on being more positive, because I've spent a long time on digging deep into my darkest emotions, on appreciating myself, accepting myself. Now to boost myself, just to give myself a pep talk, or really focus on changing those beliefs into the positive ones. So which of the principles you believe is one that you need to focus most next? And share it in your comments right here. I'm just really curious to hear where you are. And if you're unsure of any of the processes I mentioned in this video, such as how to self-validate, or how to make deeds for self-love, how to change your emotions based on aligning to your higher self, I will post a couple of links here and more in the description below. I want to encourage you to comment and share whatever resonated in this video. Thank you so much for watching today. It's been great having you, and see you in the next video.